Welcome back, everyone. It's here. And today I've got some r/best of for you all. As per usual, I'll be reading you the posts, giving you my opinions, and I hope you do the same down in the comments below. And without further ado, let's jump right into it. This post was collected by Springer, and their tagline is, "Waste of a read, literally no drama." The original OP is Glittering Rainbow Cat, posted to r/amithejerk, June 18th, 2026. Am I the asshole for bringing Tupperware to a restaurant? Hey there! I think I need a few strangers from the internet to decide what's going on here. So a few weeks ago, I, female, went to a burger place with a girlfriend of mine. I know they serve quite big burgers, and in the past, I always had leftovers. So I decided to bring a Tupperware this time, just in case. I ordered my burger, added some wedges, and enjoyed my meal while having a super nice conversation. I ate maybe a third of the wedges and not even half of the burger, and decided to stop, because I also wanted some dessert. After ordering, I pulled out my box and started to fill it with my leftovers. You know, I felt quite clever. I didn't overeat, and there was still space for dessert in my belly. I didn't have to pay $1 or so for the doggy bag, which had leaked in my bag in the past, and there would be enough for next day's lunch, so a triple win, if you will. After everything was packed and I put the box in my bag, I realized my friend was kind of quiet, but didn't think much about it. She tends to be quiet after eating. After we were done, everyone paid for their own meal, and we left. Then she looked at me and was like, "Oh my gosh, this was so embarrassing." I was confused. She explained to me how awkward she felt and people were staring and whatnot, and was kind of mad. I explained my point of view and the benefits and all, but nope. In the end, I was like, please calm down. It's not like I took the box to an all-you-can-eat buffet and stuff it full in front of the waiters. We also didn't split the bill, so it's fine I ordered more with tomorrow in mind. She still was mad, so we went our separate ways. But here's the thing, I still think it's a good, environmentally friendly way, and did it again while eating with a guy friend a few days ago. He was like, "Oh, that's neat." That was my exact thought. And even gave me some of his onion rings. So, dear strangers of the internet, am I the asshole or not? Should I have communicated before pulling out my box? Should I have asked the waiter, which hadn't said anything at all? Or should I just buy the leftover box from the restaurant next time? I absolutely don't know. Please share your thoughts with me. And what also comes to mind, I'm quite overweight and struggle with BED, so I was happy to not overeat. My friend has normal weight and has no eating disorder as far as I know. Thank you for reading. So before we get into the updates, I just want to share my thoughts on this one because this is a good idea. When her friend mentioned that it was so embarrassing because people were watching, my first thought was, yeah, I'd be watching because I'd be thinking, fuck, why didn't I think of that? That's a great idea because now I get to take leftovers in my bag, I put them in the Tupperware, I don't have to worry about grease smell in my car. I don't have to worry about them potentially spilling. They're going to be locked in there. They're going to stay warm. It's going to be good to go. That's a great idea. Doesn't have the greasy smell of a takeout box, and I just get to yeet it right into my fridge. Don't have to transfer that into Tupperware. Don't have to do shit. It's already good to go. That's a great idea. The guy friend is on the money. Whoa, that's neat. Plus, it also means that you know for a fact the food isn't going to go to waste, so you don't have to feel like you have to eat all of it. Because I have the problem at restaurants where if I order something, I feel like I have to clean my plate. Because I don't like doing takeout boxes, because I don't like having in my car, because I don't want my car to smell like grease. So oftentimes, I try to stuff as much as I can in my belly. But the Tupperware hack. Oh, good heavens. Anyways, edit. Thank you for all your replies so far. I'll answer a few things. 1, where are you from? Central Europe. This thread is huge, so that should be specific enough. 2, here it's super common to pay for one-use items, for example, boxes in restaurants and plastic bags. 3, it was not a date. Maybe the term female friend would have been better, but yeah, it was just a girl's dinner. 4, I can be a little eccentric from time to time, and all my friends know that, but she and I weren't out for lunch/dinner often. 5, in general, she's a very nice and pleasant person to be around, and we have a good time together. I'm pretty sure there was some kind of trigger. I'll contact her tomorrow and try to talk to her, so there might be an update coming. Consensus, not the asshole. Update, June 23rd, 2026, 5 days later. Hey there. First, I want to thank you all for the responses in my original post. I really appreciate it. For the update, the day after my original post, I reached out to my friend and asked if she has time the next few days. We meet today for a nice long stroll in the park. The beginning was kind of awkward because we never had a fight before. Normally, it's also not a problem when life is busy and we don't write for a few days or even weeks, but today it somehow feels strange. I'm not a fan of beating around the bush, so I simply asked her, "So, in the burger place, what exactly triggered you?" Honestly, it was like poking a water balloon. She apologized for everything and how afraid she was I might be still mad at her and apologized some more. Then she explained to me what her trigger was. What can I say? We all were kind of wrong. You guys, it's her aunt. She has an aunt who will always bring a few boxes for family gatherings. But instead of waiting until everyone is done and the food is back in the kitchen, which is fine, she sometimes fills the boxes before it goes to the table. Because my friend's grandma knows of this behavior, she started to cook even more. But the aunt just brought more boxes as well. But that's not all. Said aunt will also bring boxes to restaurants, and if they order different meals so everyone can have a try from all the plates, she's like, "No one wants that anymore, right?" In packs, while people are still eating. My friend is a slow eater, so often her aunt filled her boxes before she could try everything she wanted. I always wanted to use the word flabbergasted in a post. I think this is the right time. I was definitely flabbergasted. How impudent can a person be? I asked why no one is saying anything about it, but they're all just too tired to deal with her outbreaks. It's easier to say nothing. I felt that. So, yeah, she knew it was my food and everything, but it also triggered her real bad. I apologized as well for not warning her, but she said it was totally her fault. I said I will make sure the next time, but she was like, no, it's a nice way to work on it. Well, in the end, we had a really nice stroll, talked about different things, and everything is good. I'm really glad that we cleared that out though. Thank you for reading this. Have a great day and a nice week. So I'm including this comment for two reasons. Sapphic Pandora box, and their tagline is, "What does he do with the butter?" I don't know why, but in my head, it just comes across with the same energy as the Hamilton wrote, "The other 51!" I gotta be careful about what kind of media I'm consuming because it directly affects whatever I'm actively recording. But that tagline, I found it. And I will be putting it into July's rotation for when I take my small break. Anyways, they commented, they'd rather suffer than rock the boat. That's a pretty sad way to live. Shitty aunt too. Hope she stubs her toe constantly. It sounds like the aunt just always put up some kind of fight, and it just went to the point where no one wanted to actually argue against it anymore. They tried what they could to mitigate her selfish proportioning, and it only got worse because she just realized she could bring more and more. And to do it while someone is actively eating their meal too. What the fuck? It's also nice to have a mostly low-stakes best of where it's just a simple disagreement over a scenario that does have a lot of like, that's a weird thing to happen. But yeah, that sucks that OP's friend had to go through that and it's actually affected her that much to the point where it's just like right back there of, oh god, the food's gonna be taken off my plate, isn't it? And they're gonna put in their Tupperware. Shit. So then she's probably thinking back to the thoughts of like, oh god, my entire family, they just see how embarrassing this is that she does this and how mortifying it is having her do this to us. And now my friend's doing it. No wonder why she found it to be embarrassing and not just oh yeah, that makes sense. And thankfully, in the end, it's something that her and OP will be able to work through. And it's something that I'm going to steal. At a minimum, though, because I don't have a purse and an easy way to bring Tupperware into a restaurant, I'm just going to keep it into the car, and then that way when I get to the car, I can just scoop it there and throw away the old, takeout box, and then it's in the Tupperware. Either that or I'll invest in a handbag. And it will only be used for transporting Tupperware. This post was collected by Direct Caterpillar 77, and their tagline is, "Satan is not a pogo stick." The original OP is Miserable Willow 312, posted to r/coworker stories, May 19th, 2026. Everyone has a job. I'm convinced. Or what is slowly becoming the Cheryl saga. There's a woman at work named Cheryl, and I swear every office has a version of her. She's not openly mean enough to get in trouble, but she somehow makes the entire atmosphere heavier the second she walks into a room. You can literally hear conversations die when she appears around the corner. Cheryl acts like she's management despite not actually supervising anyone. She monitors everyone constantly. If someone comes back from lunch a few minutes late, she'll quietly say, "Half days must be nice." If someone calls in sick, she suddenly becomes an investigator. They were fine yesterday. She also has this talent for disguising criticism as concern. She'll say things like, "You seem really tired lately. Everything okay?" in front of other coworkers, so now everyone turns to look at you like you're falling apart. The break room is the worst. Someone could be talking about a new puppy, vacation plans, or literally anything enjoyable. And Cheryl somehow redirects it into negativity within 30 seconds. Coworker, "We're going camping this weekend." Cheryl, "Hope you packed emergency supplies. My cousin got stranded once and almost lost a toe." Nobody even knows how to respond to that. She also keeps track of things that no normal person should notice. She remembers exactly how long people take on break, who leaves early, who orders takeout too often, who seems off lately. She never directly accuses anyone of anything, but she says just enough to make people uncomfortable. The strangest part is she genuinely thinks she's helpful. If there's tension in the office that she personally caused, she'll sit there saying, "I think just communication has really broken down around here." Meanwhile, everyone is actively avoiding eye contact with her. At this point, people schedule lunches around Cheryl. If someone sees her heading for the break room, they suddenly remember they have emails to finish. New employees usually try to be friendly with her at first, but within about 2 weeks they develop the same 1,000-yard stare as the rest of us. What makes it worse is there's never a big dramatic event HR can point to. It's just years of constant small comments, judgment, negativity, and hovering until the entire office collectively feels emotionally exhausted whenever she's around. I'm not bothered enough by her to leave my long-term employment, but she really does make the work week feel exhausting. Relevant comments, Opie added. "I know complaints have been made multiple times on how she treats others, yet HR always says they can't discipline someone just because others don't like her. We don't like her because she's insufferable." Opie comments in addition, "I'm looking at her right now as she licks the peanut butter off her peanut butter cheese crackers wrapper. Ugh, I really wish she would use some sick days to give us all a break." Top/best comment, "One lonely bestial bee. Energy vampires, they exist to ruin everything." Update, May 26th, 2026, 1 week after the last post. Cheryl strikes again. Cheryl has everyone irritated again, and it's day 1, back from 4 days off. She has this habit of correcting people publicly over the smallest things. This morning, one of the newer staff asked a simple question about documentation requirements, and instead of just helping, Cheryl goes into this long, condescending explanation in front of everyone about how these are things people should already know before working here. The room got quiet fast. What makes it exhausting is that she constantly presents herself as the only competent person in the office while creating tension everywhere she goes. She'll complain that morale is bad, and spend the entire day gossiping about coworkers, questioning how other people do their jobs, keeping track of coffee breaks, and forwarding passive-aggressive emails instead of just having normal conversations. The funniest part was right after going off on the new staff, one coworker finally got a subtle dig in without sounding unprofessional. Cheryl started criticizing how the staff member organized their caseload notes, and after Cheryl finished talking, the coworker just calmly said, "I think most people care more about whether the work gets done than whether it gets done Cheryl's exact way." Nobody said a word after that, but a couple people suddenly became very interested in looking down at their laptops, trying not to laugh. I did a low chuckle before I could stop myself, so I'm sure I'll be under scrutiny from her this week. The wildest part is Cheryl still seems genuinely confused why nobody wants to work closely with her anymore. She said as much right before the morning meeting. People aren't avoiding Cheryl because she's strict or direct. They avoid her because every interaction feels like she's keeping score against them. Relevant comments. Rail Advance 6985. What is Cheryl's role in the company? OP responds, she's a caseworker and not in charge of anyone, just a cog in the wheel, but she thinks she's everyone's supervisor. Bikini Girl Out comments, just quote Cheryl from Archer with, you're not my supervisor. I always hate these types. The types that think they're God's gift just for existing and think they're in charge when they're like ninth in charge. They also want to extreme overhaul things the second they walk in the door and think the rules will change because they say so. OP responds, it's like she lives for confrontations and just zeroes in on anyone who tries this. I've been at this agency for like 24 years and she's been here a little less, and she's always been this way. I mostly stay off her radar because of my longevity and ability to remain incognito. And a bit more about Cheryl from OP. Cheryl's in her 40s and this is only her second job ever. She likes to remind everyone. She has this huge sense of entitlement based on her tenure and belief the only 2 jobs makes her better than others. Update, June 1st, 2026. 6 days later. Cheryl might have talked herself into real trouble now. I think we finally have something solid for HR to act on. Our agency is a community mental health provider and we're planning to have a booth at the local Pride Festival this month. Cheryl was assigned to help organize the agency's swag and take a shift staffing the booth. During our morning staffing today, we were going over the plan when Cheryl looked directly at Katie, the only openly gay employee on our team, and said, I'm not sure why I'm doing all this extra work when you should probably be the one doing it. It's for your people anyway. Without missing a beat, Katie replied, it's not extra work, it's part of your job. And if everybody followed your logic, nobody would have helped with Black History Month events either. Cheryl rolled her eyes and said, real causes are fine. Made up things are silly. The room went completely silent. The subject was immediately changed to other business. Katie got up right after the meeting and walked to HR. The rest of us already have emails in our inboxes, scheduling meetings and requesting written statements about what happened. For the first time in a long time, it feels like Cheryl may have finally crossed a line that even she can't talk her way out of. Update, June 5th, 2026, 4 days after the last post. Cheryl, once again, foils justice. Well, we finally heard back from HR regarding Cheryl telling our openly gay coworker that she should be the one doing the Pride booth work because she's the gay one, and Cheryl isn't. HR determined Cheryl's comments were inappropriate and unprofessional. However, they also concluded that Cheryl was attempting to discuss staffing assignments and did not intend to offend anyone. Because there was no evidence of malicious intent and because Cheryl has no prior disciplinary actions on file regarding this type of concern, she received a written warning and coaching from her supervisor. The part that really got people was HR's recommendation going forward. Rather than removing Cheryl from Pride-related activities, management decided that all staff participating in community outreach events will complete a short 3 hours cultural sensitivity training next Saturday. So Cheryl got a write-up, but now everyone else has to sit through training too, and on mandatory overtime. When Katie asked why Cheryl was still allowed to work the booth after making those comments, management said they believe this was a learning opportunity, and that excluding her would be counterproductive. So, the employee Cheryl singled out gets to spend the Pride event working alongside the person who told her the event should be her responsibility simply because she's gay. And the rest of us sink a little further into a hole of regret for helping keep this monster alive in her office. Cheryl, meanwhile, has been telling people she was cleared by HR and that the whole thing was just a misunderstanding. She's like a cat and has 9 frickin' lives. Update, June 13th, 2026, 8 days after the last post. Cheryl update that still infuriates. A lot of people asked for updates on Cheryl, so unfortunately I have one. For those unfamiliar, Cheryl is the coworker who recently informed one of our gay employees that she should be doing most of the work for our agency's Pride booth because it was for your people. HR got involved after multiple complaints and We were all required to attend mandatory cultural sensitivity training that day. You would think Cheryl would maybe lay low for a while. You would be wrong. Despite not being anyone's supervisor, Cheryl continues to act like she runs the place. She still inserts herself into decisions that have nothing to do with her job, tells people how they should be doing things, and generally behaves like she's management's special project. As for HR, they've apparently decided that checking a box is easier than actually addressing behavior. Their solution was to gather everyone into a room for mandatory training, which somehow managed to punish the entire staff while accomplishing absolutely nothing. The highlight of the week happened during the training itself this morning. The facilitator was discussing respecting different backgrounds, experiences, and identities. Most of us were quietly listening and trying to get through it. Cheryl, however, seemed personally offended by the entire concept. She interrupted repeatedly. She argued over examples. She spent a good portion of the session explaining why people are too sensitive these days, and insisting that everything is offensive now. At one point, she loudly announced that she treats everybody the same, as if that was some profound contribution to a discussion about cultural awareness. The room got so uncomfortable you could practically hear people trying not to make eye contact. The best part was watching her confidently argue with the trainer about a topic she was literally attending training for because of her own behavior. The lack of self-awareness was almost impressive. Meanwhile, the employee who was actually targeted by Cheryl's comments sat through the entire thing with far more patience and professionalism than I would have imagined. By the end of the training, HR probably considered it a success because everyone signed the attendance sheet. The rest of us left with the same Cheryl we walked in with. She's still acting like the boss. She's still entitled. She's still convinced she's the smartest person in every room. And HR is still treating her like a paperwork problem instead of an employee problem. At this point, I fully expect Cheryl to volunteer herself as next year's cultural sensitivity trainer. Unfortunately, that's where the Cheryl saga ends for now. I'll be keeping an eye on it and then potentially just slapping on the Cheryl saga at the end of certain best of videos when they pop up. So you'll get like the occasional hour video that is just the fact that it's a regular best of but with a Cheryl update tacked onto it. Because I am very invested in this story. Also, another great example that HR is more there for the company and for the bottom line than they are for the people, because Cheryl is actively making the workplace hell for everyone at the company, and rather than them have to deal with firing Cheryl and the paperwork that would come with that, well, let's just check a few boxes and say everything's good to go. Can you imagine if Cheryl said you and your people to the only person of color in the room? Like if it's during like Black History Month or Cinco de Mayo or some shit like that, and they look at the only employee who meets that ethnicity, and they're just like, why am I involved in this? This is for your people. Would HR just stand by for that one too? Because, like, that's what she fucking did. Also, props to Katie for keeping calm while Cheryl was actively demeaning the sensitivity training seminar that the entire company had to attend on a Saturday because of Cheryl. I would be mortified if my actions caused the entire staff to have to come in on a Saturday. I would be apologetic as fuck and I would keep my mouth fucking silenced. But no, apparently Cheryl's ego is so big that it has its own gravitational pull, and it pulled everyone into work on a Saturday. So props to Katie for not talking smack, because God knows I would have. I would not have hesitated to respond to Cheryl's little quips of, Cheryl, we're only here right now because you don't see me as a person. What is HR gonna do, huh? Fire me because someone was homophobic to me? Huh? No! That's a lawsuit, HR. You made it clear the company bottom line's more important, so tread like you're on a frozen pond. This post was collected by Anonymatron42. Their tagline is, my cat is done with kids. The original OP is Accomplished Owl 8796, good for him, posted in r/am_I_the_asshole, originally posted June 18th, 2026. Am I the asshole for refusing a name for my baby that everyone loves but I don't? I, 27 female, and my husband, 28 male, are expecting our first child in the fall. It's a girl. We're both really stoked and have wanted kids for a long time now. Ever since we decided to start planning on having kids, my husband has been using a joke, a placeholder name for our baby. He's second generation Irish and he's been calling our baby Siobhan. He likes that it's traditional Irish, and don't get me wrong, it really is a pretty name, but my major hang-up is, We live in the US. We're both born and raised in the US, and the US is known to be kinda garbage at pronouncing traditional Irish names right. On the first try, anyway. I do not want to send my daughter to 12 plus years of public education and have teachers, substitutes, and fellow students unable to say her name right on the first try. My name is a pretty standard name here, but it's spelled differently because my dear sweet mother wanted me to be unique. God, do I feel that. But all I got was grief for it. God, do I feel that. Kids can be mean, and I don't want my kid to have a name that might get her bullied or cause her teachers to call her Sayo Bahan. Not at all how you pronounce it. Every time they call her name in class. The problem? Everyone is telling me that I totally need to use the name Sayo Bahan, Siobhan. My own parents say that it's pretty and unique. Again, with that word, Mom rolling my eyes. My aunt and cousins are saying, well, that's what you call her anyway. My husband does. I don't. And my husband's family gush over it too. I've told everyone that it's not what I want to go with, but it's like talking to a brick wall. My husband's cut down on calling the baby Sayo Bahan, since he knows it's not what I want and that it bugs me. I'm spelling it out phonetically like that so the audio-only listeners can understand why it's such a big deal. He's told them that it was really just a joke name and he kept using it to tease me. We have a very playful teasing type of relationship. I've given as good as I've gotten in that respect. He said multiple times it's not what we're actually going with, but things are starting to get out of hand. My mom and sister have already tried getting embroidered blankets with Sayo Bahan ordered for the baby. They only failed because they called me to confirm the spelling and I shut it down hard. Now they're pissed because I still can't make up my mind on what I actually want to name my daughter, and I'm just a mess. I'm pregnant, my head hurts, and I don't know. Am I just making a big deal over nothing? Should I just name the baby Sayo Bahan and get it over with, or is this worth putting my foot down on? Am I the asshole if I don't name my baby Siobhan? Top comment. This is why you don't discuss baby names with anyone who isn't the mother/father of the baby until after the baby has been named. I had 0 people commenting on my kids' names. It was fabulous. Comment. Only parents get a vote on the name, and it needs to be a 2-yes agreement. 1 no is a complete no. Comment. Americans, say it with me, Shia Megatrona Vingenian Von. Not the asshole. Reply from OP. Yeah, exactly what I was afraid of, LOL. Thanks for this. I needed the belly laugh. OP was deemed not the asshole. Update post. Monday, June 22nd, 2026. Update. Am I the asshole for refusing a name for my baby that everyone loves but I don't? Guys, you made a pregnant woman cry in the good way. I was so glad to see all your comments and everything. Even the you're the assholes and downvotes were welcomed looks at both sides. So, I want you all to know that I really appreciate it. I got a DM from someone with the name Siobhan, and not only was it validating, but it gave me a great idea. They told me they go by the nickname Bonnie, and I almost instantly fell in love with it. After more pregnancy crying, I ran the idea past my husband. His response, we could give her Anne for a middle name, like the pirate. My husband's a pirate/nautical geek, but I love him for it. So we have a new working name, Bonnie Ann. If we end up not liking it when she's born, we'll switch things around, but for now, that's what we're going with. I haven't told our families yet, and I think we're going to keep it that way, at least for now. I've stressed the we want it to be a surprise angle, and while we got some flack for it, it's gone down some. My mom and sister were sour because apparently they wanted to do a name reveal at my baby shower coming up, and again, have personalized gifts made, but they're sticking to my boundaries for the time being. For all the Siobhans out there and all those who love the name, I see you, I really do. It's a beautiful name from a beautiful culture. Wear it with pride, my dudes, but for us, there is just too much negative energy around it for us personally. Overall, I made this account for this dilemma specifically. I don't use social media a lot, as it's not great for my mental health, so I don't know how long I'm going to keep it up. But I want to share this update with you guys, and thank you again for all your help. Me and baby, maybe Bonnie, are doing just fine. A common and good practice to ask yourself before you name a child is, will they be made fun of for having this name? If the answer in any way is yes, potentially consider reconsidering or modifying it. I'm not talking about just making fun of a name in general, because that's easy to do. I'm talking about very targeted ways that will make the child hate their name. Like from a few weeks ago, Ted Bundy. If you want to do something unique, which is entirely understandable, go for something that can be pronounced at a glance, and on top of that, would be a name they would enjoy having, and not just like something that they deeply despise because of how much they get insulted on the playground for it. Siobhan thankfully wouldn't be a name where they would be insulted too often, but the spelling would definitely mean that every time there's a substitute, anytime they go into new class, it is just the inevitable Sayobahan, and by the time they reach graduation, that will end up building resentment. I mean, with my name, while it's not, horrific spelling or anything, my actual name, my principal said my name wrong at graduation in front of everyone. So that was awesome. And it's not like I had a large graduating class either. It was less than 40 kids. And he got it wrong. And I was the valedictorian. Well, one of 3. But still, I had multiple leadership roles. Like I was active in the school, and he still got it wrong. At my graduation, all of the footage is just my name being said wrong and me having to awkwardly walk up there. God damn. This post was collected by Big O Nerd. The original OP is Butt Idiot. Posted February 27th, 2026. My wife moved her friend in, and I hate it. My wife, 40 female, and I, 44 male, have been married for 1 year. We've been together for 20 years. We moved away from our hometown to a large city. Things have been pretty good so far. We're child-free by design. I work from home. She works about 15 minutes away, 4 days a week. At that job, she met a friend called Alice, 24 female. Alice quit that job and moved in with her boyfriend renting a home. They broke up, and Alice had nowhere to go. My wife asked me if Alice could move into our guest bedroom. I agreed. We set her rent at $200 and added $50 per month because I would be cooking her meals 4 days a week at least. The plan is for her to save up to move out. Things have not been going well for me. Alice works a 9 to 5 and does not interact with me at all when we see each other. I knew Alice for a year before she moved in. Things were always jovial. We've hung out together dozens of times when she was dating her ex. Alice is way younger than my wife and I, but it's hard to make friends in a new city. Our household dynamic is I do most of the things around our house because I work from home. I cook all the meals and do most of the cleaning, and do everything to care for our 2 dogs. I'd like my wife to contribute more, but those conversations have not yielded any results. I admit I hold a bit of resentment because of this. Well, when Alice moved in, I immediately noticed she wanted nothing to do with me. I had no idea what to expect because I've never had a roommate, but the daily affair was that we would not interact at all. She makes her breakfast and I log into work. She does not acknowledge me at all, so I stop saying good morning. She comes home from work 1 or 2 hours before my wife and goes to her room and closes the door. I cook dinner, and when my wife comes home, she leaves her room and eats with us and will engage in conversation with us. She finishes her dinner and goes back to her room. I don't expect her to be my bestie, and yet we are 20 years apart. It just seems a little weird to me that I bailed her out, am giving her a room and board at a tiny price, and she's pretty cold. I have absolutely never done anything creepy, and honestly, I think I'm going to get flamed here anyway for saying that. If you choose to believe me, I've never stared at her, said anything about her body, said anything sexual, or even talked to her one-on-one other than telling her what's for dinner. Things in the house took a turn recently because I fucked up dinner on Sunday. I planned something out, went shopping, prepared, marinated, and put stuff in the oven. I don't know what happened, but when I checked it out 40 minutes later, the oven was off. The meat was near temp, but not crisper at all. The vegetables were still raw. I explained what happened and said dinner was kind of ruined. I encouraged my wife and Alice to order something, and they did. They also had a really good laugh at me. This kind of hurt because they don't do shit to help. I planned dinner and did all the work from start to finish while they watched the Olympics. This is the usual affair, and I've never been asked if I need help. I got kind of pissed here because I felt like I was being taken for granted by my wife and her guest. There was already a bit of resentment here because I do most of the housework and all of the cooking, and I make 3 times my wife's salary and pay all of the bills other than internet and gas. I decided, fuck dinner. I'll do my own thing, and they can do theirs. Since putting this in play, my wife has not talked to me. She comes home, Alice leaves her bedroom, they order something to eat, and I'm completely ignored. What do I do here? I don't want to kick Alice out, she has nowhere to go. I have acquiesced to the fact that I'm going to do more around the house because I work from home and efforts to make things more equal have failed. I'm caught feeling like it's me that's a guest here. They pal around and have talks while I just go to another room and hang out on my own. There is no sexual dynamic between my wife and Alice. They're never alone together. Too long didn't read, my wife's friend moved in, and I'm getting ignored. Comments. Why not set a firm move-out date for your wife's friend and address the division of labor in the house? OP responds, yeah, I struggle here. When I bring up the division of labor, she'll get upset and start angrily cleaning, but that's a one-time thing. I've done things like make a list of what I've done throughout the week and show it to her. This has had no effect. Why are you doing most of the household chores? Do you feel like you're being taken advantage of? OP responds, this is a weird dynamic, so I'll add some context. I'm very lucky with my job. I work in IT support, and I'm at a level where I'm only tapped to handle high-level issues and help my coworkers. My role is designed to have me be free so that I can devote 100% to a big issue. If there aren't big issues, I'm not really doing much other than attending the occasional meeting. I accept the role that I'll be doing more around the house because I have time to. I accept that I cook dinner because my wife works 4 10-hour days a week. She gets home between 6:30 and 8. I feel like I'm building up resentment because I'm doing almost all of the chores and her time off is mainly leisure. At the same time, I feel like she's building up resentment because she has a public-facing in-person job where she needs to be doing something at all times, but on Fridays, she's off and sees me usually not really doing much work. Why not stop doing chores, match your effort, or hire help? OP responds, so if I just stop doing things, the house falls into disarray and the dogs don't get walked and the backyard is covered in waste. I've stopped cleaning before, but it just gets unbearable. I can't live like that. I've had work trips before, the house is cleaned and the dogs are cared for. I think she doesn't do any of that when I'm home because she resents that I have an easy job, even if I do make 3 times as much. I spend pretty aggressively. Wife has a very nice car, and I'll be buying out the lease this year. We take a vacation every year, and this year's one will be the biggest yet. I'm still having conversations about postponing it, but it's her dream vacation, and she's dead set on it happening when she's 40. I wouldn't be opposed necessarily, but 2 things are stopping me: logistics and pragmatism. I've hired services for deep cleans, but we need to get the dogs out of the house for 4 to 5 hours. Our house is not that big, and it should be really easy to manage with 2 people, so it does make me a little upset because it shouldn't be necessary. Why not divorce your wife? OP responds, I'm also not going to divorce my wife, and it's crazy how many comments are saying that. I took a vow and want to work things out. It's just a really tough situation because we're both building up resentment. I resent doing most of the housework, cooking, and dog care. She resents that I have a cushy job that pays so well and is usually not very demanding. Why does Alice ignore you? Could she just be trying to maintain boundaries? OP responds, that's absolutely what I thought. She wanted to respect my wife and be distant to make sure there's no funny business. But I mean, I'll get home from the gym after work and she's there in the living room with headphones on. She does not acknowledge I'm there at all. I don't need a parade when I get home, but I keep thinking about what I would do if I got a place to stay in a jam. I'd be friendly as fuck, even though that's not my nature. I clean the fuck out of shit whenever I can, and I'd give people space. She cooks her own breakfast, cleans those dishes, and cleans her bathroom. That's it. It also sucks that now she has a bathroom, I've got to take embarrassing dukes in my bedroom bathroom with my wife in the room. And I hate it. Do you think Alice owes you friendship? OP responds, I don't think Alice owes me friendship. My only frame of reference is what I would do in her situation. I would do the same as her and make myself kind of scarce, and say good morning or hello when I got home. It just seems weird to me that she gets home from work, sits in the living room with headphones on, reading a book while I cook dinner, not even acknowledging I'm there, and then when my wife gets home, I serve them dinner while they yap it up about how their day was. That's fair, but it makes me feel like a creep to get home from the gym, walk into the living room, And then the guest I'm subsidizing sees me and without a word, leaves the room and stays there while I make her dinner until my wife gets home. I brought this up with my wife before she moved in. She's had jealousy issues in the past over the 20 years we've been together. I said, if she's going to stay with us, you have to understand that I have no interest in her romantically. She laughed and said that was never even something that crossed her mind. Are your wife and Alice having an affair? Opie responds, this is not true. There's been a lot of comments like this saying my wife and Alice are now hooking up. Gay people exist. Sometimes people change from straight to gay, granted, but this is very rare. My wife is straight, Alice is straight. They aren't having an affair because they aren't ever alone together. I work from home, my wife and I have a date every weekend. They have not been alone together in the house once. Before she moved in, they've gone out together to dinners and brunches, but I believe that's what they're doing because my wife brings home leftovers and Snapchats her meals. Also, as a gentle correction to OP, it's not that they change from straight to gay, it's more that they realize they're not actually straight, and their desires lie elsewhere. Update after 3 months and 1 day, May 28th, 2026. Update, my wife moved her friend in, and I hate it. It's around 4.5 months of my wife's friend living with us. My wife has balked at the idea of couples therapy, so I'm going on my own. I've reiterated to my wife that we need a game plan about how long her friend stays. I told her that I agree to this, so telling her to just get out is not an option. However, we need to establish an end date, and I think 6 months is more than reasonable. Some new things have come to light. Alice has been going to her ex's place most weekends, and they're trying to reconnect. I've honestly never rooted harder for someone else's relationship. Last weekend, Alice came home crying and wanted to talk. Not to me, obviously, so I excused myself to the bathroom. Here's what I gathered. Her ex said something while drunk about not seeing a future with her. That's why she's upset. I assumed she was paying rent when living with him and splitting bills and rent on a home. I estimated her contribution to be around $1,400. I assumed 6 months of paying $250 a month would be more than enough time to get her affairs in order, get a deposit and first month rent, and be out. It turns out she paid no rent or share of bills. Her ex paid everything. This is very worrisome to me now because she lived with him 6 months without bills other than her car payment and didn't save anything. Her plan has been to move back with him all along. Staying here was supposed to be a temporary solution. Now we're over 4 months in, and she hasn't even looked for her own place. My wife is in agreement that 6 months is enough, reasonably, but is avoiding a conversation with her. I really can't see how it should be my responsibility to set this boundary seeing as it's her friend, and she doesn't want anything to do with me. However, she needs adequate notice. My plan is to draft an eviction notice and, per state guidelines, just give it to her at the 5-month mark, simply saying 6 months is all we can do, it's time for you to find your own place. Comments, do you think your wife expects you to handle difficult situations for her? Opie responds, I honestly think that's it. We had a disaster in our kitchen with a leak and mold in a remodel. It was all me handling it. I think maybe growing up with a dad and no mom has a lot to do with it. He handled everything, and she didn't get to see her mom supporting him through it. That's something we'll work on. Was your marriage in trouble before Alice moved in? Opie responds, ooh, this is a comment that really made me feel heard. I'm willing to do more around the house because I work from home. I'm willing to cook my wife's meals because she gets home from work later and doesn't like to cook. There's things we can work on as a couple, to be sure. However, I was relatively happy before her friend moved in. Now, I'm uncomfortable in my own home and feel like I'm the roommate. That's the immediate problem. I didn't feel the need to add positives about my wife because it wasn't relative to the advice I was looking for. How to get Alice out. The reason for mentioning division of labor was to explain that now I feel like I'm doing things for 2 rather than 1, and that feels worse. Have you made any changes to the household workload since the first post? Opie responds, I've been using attrition like some comments have said. I stopped doing the laundry, but that means my wife picks through the clothes and washes hers only. Before, I was doing both. Now we do our own. I continued doing all the cooking, but stopped cleaning up after and unloading the dishwasher. Now my wife does. Our bathroom gets gross as fuck. So I've caved and cleaned. Dog care is still on me, but I won't let them suffer. What does your therapist think about the situation? Opie responds, that I'm entitled to my feelings of the roommate making me uncomfortable. I shouldn't be responsible for all the housework because I work from home, I need to work on communication skills to make expectations more clear. The last part is a real struggle. We've had this house for 6 years and have had countless discussions where I'm not yelling, but calmly stating that it isn't fair. What we're working on now is why she thinks she isn't responsible to help. Current theory is that wife is off Friday. She usually has nails or hair appointments, but a lot of times she'll see me watching TV or preparing dinner or cleaning something on Fridays. It's my slowest day and there isn't a lot to do. If I'm not actively assigned a task or case, I'm on call basically. That makes her feel like I do nothing and I should be doing all the housework. Why do you continue defending your wife despite the criticism? OP responds, a lot of the comments have been against my wife. I love her. I have for literally most of my life. The problem is I'm talking about problems, not good things. I was venting about a personal problem and asking for advice, so I gave relevant information to that problem. I didn't mention that my wife texts me every day from work to ask how I'm doing, how the dogs are. I didn't mention how she'll buy me gifts unprompted. I didn't mention that no one has ever made me laugh like she does. Final update after 3 months and 25 days. 24 days from the last post. June 21st, 2026. 2 weeks ago, my wife agreed to talk to her friend and let her know that 6 months was all we could do. That would have given her over 30 days to find alternate lodging. The talk did not go as expected. Instead of laying out expectations, my wife just asked Alice what her plans were. Alice said she was still saving to move out with a relative and needed more like 8 to 12 months. My wife accepted this and then told me the news. I got pretty upset but didn't yell when I told her how unhappy this made me. I told her that I had made it clear for months that Alice being here made me uncomfortable. I said we had both agreed 6 months was enough, but she never even set a boundary. She acted like Alice was making the rules. I said I could not believe that she was choosing her friend over me. My wife stormed out and slept in my office. The next week, I was a mess. I knew divorce was next. I didn't deal with it well and drank a lot. I was in bed by the time they came home from work and stopped cooking for them or cleaning. On the next Saturday, Alice's room was empty and her car was gone. My wife confirmed that she had moved out. Alice talked with my wife about what was wrong the prior week, and my wife told her everything I had shared with her. That I was uncomfortable in my home, that she made me feel like I was a creep for existing, that I was pushing for her to get out. I really wish she could have simply said, we decided 6 months was enough, and leave it at that. She also didn't mention the fact that she wasn't looking for a place and was paying off debt, not saving. Alice was reportedly shocked and thought we were all cool. She explained to my wife that she was just trying to give me space. Regardless, Alice is gone. I'm continuing therapy and I'm going to shift focus to saving my marriage. This is going to be the last post as I'm abandoning this account. The story was shared from here to other communities and my inbox is full of messages calling me names and wishing me harm as a result. I'd like to thank the few people who empathized and offered advice rather than just calling me names. Comments. Uzador the Light Blue. Where is your wife at on the saving your marriage front? Opie responds, well, I'll tell you what, it's off to a bad start. Alice has been gone for a week. I don't know what happened. I was just happy she was gone. It wasn't until this weekend that I asked for the story. I waited until I took her out for a date and she was having a good time and a little tipsy. I drove, so was not. After telling me the circumstances of how Alice left and how she told Alice everything I was uncomfortable about, she also mentioned she was hosting a game night for her friends next weekend and Alice was coming. The rationale is no one else is able to host. She said Alice doesn't hold any ill will and is grateful for the help we gave her, but I could choose to participate or not. It really feels weird to have her back here after only 2 weeks, especially considering my wife told her everything I was feeling, except for the stuff Alice was doing wrong. I would be very uncomfortable, to say the least. I'd love to make some other plans, but I don't have my own friends. All my wife's friends are from work. I work from home. As a reminder, we moved together to a new city. Comment from user DollySheep32. Regardless of therapy, I'm still team divorce. User swinging dicks comments. Maybe eventually, but definitely not yet. First, he needs to practice standing up for himself, even a little bit. His wife doesn't respect him, true, but she has a reason not to. He's a little... God, fuck you, dude. He's a little pussy. We should give it a year of working on himself. Then, once he's located his balls, he can go ahead and divorce her. I can smell the Mountain Dew on your breath, and I can feel the fact that you live alone. OP responds, "I'd love some feedback on how not to be a doormat, pussy, pushover, and some of the other things I've been called in DMs without being abusive. Throughout this entire story, I've communicated to my wife at all points. When it comes to chores, I've expressed my displeasure at the division of labor countless times. I've made lists of what I do throughout the week and made her a list. I worked for a week and went back to the usual routine, and now lists are nagging. When it came to her friend, I communicated after month 1 that I didn't like the arrangement and was uncomfortable in my home. We came up with a plan on 6 months, and she just straight up reneged on the deal. When it comes to her having Alice and friends over for a game night, I communicated that I didn't want this, and it would be weird for me because my wife threw me under the bus about Alice's departure. I guess my question is, what would you have done to grow some balls other than straight up divorce? Forbid her from having a game night? She's just going to do it anyways. Block her friends at the door as they arrive like a crazy person? So many of these comments seem to assume that I have the power to change my wife's behavior somehow, and the fact that I haven't reflects poorly on me as a man. God, I feel for OP. People seem to forget that this is 20 years of his life that he would just be throwing away without even attempting to fully discuss it through. And by that, I don't mean having a conversation with her, I mean putting her feet to the fire. I think, and while I normally don't agree with ultimatums, this is a circumstance where an ultimatum would be warranted and actually necessary. I think he needs to put it out there that either we go to couples counseling or we end the marriage. Part of me wonders if maybe throughout the 20 years they've known each other, if OP has taken a solid path forward and has, as cruel as this is to say, outgrown his wife. And rather than her being thankful that he's been able to have the pace that he has, she resents him for it. He's making 3 times what she makes, and she still has to be in a front-facing position, working 10 hours a day for 4 days a week. Meanwhile, he's just on call to put out fires, so his days are, well, either extremely scarce on work to do, or it's going to be a complete hellscape of the entire company begging him for help. But she's not going to see that aspect of it. It's only the aspects that she sees that are going to upset her, like him having time to, well, do things that aren't work-related while he's supposed to be quote-unquote working. I would also ask OP just from the standpoint of not trying to insult you or have abusive language towards you like some of the fucking bastards in the comment section or your DMs, but what made you choose to get married so late into the relationship? 20 years. Was it done as a, oh well, I guess we have kind of been dating for 20 years now, so we probably should get married? Was it kind of just a quick solution to solve one of the previous fights you guys had, hoping that would just smooth everything over? Or do you guys just not prioritize marriage as actually meaning as much as others do? Which I can understand that aspect of it, but, you know, that is definitely something worth note, because 20 years of dating is quite a while. It's also worth noting that because they moved cities and OP admits that he doesn't really have a friend circle yet, if he divorces his wife, he's alone. He doesn't have anyone at that point. That's just going to be him admitting to becoming lonely in his 40s. Making friends as an adult is already hard enough, but Reddit's basically demanding that he cut off one of his only lifelines to not essentially be alone. It's not a healthy lifeline, but if you've ever tried making friends as an adult, shit, that's a scary thought to be putting yourself into. My biggest recommendation, though, to OP would be to find a hobby. Find something that you can dedicate time to. And then, every once in a while, just go to a hobby convention and see if you can find like-minded people. What I'm trying to say is I understand the struggles that OP's dealing with that are on his shoulders, that I think a lot of people are just overlooking. It's not just as simple as, why aren't you divorcing her? There's so much more complicated layers of emotion that are going to cause OP to have problems with this. And it just comes across as that so many people on Reddit think that the solution is so easy because, oh, look how easy it is to type out divorce. D-I-V-O-R-C-E. See? It's as easy as that. When it's not. You're asking someone to come to terms with uprooting their entire life, and then you're making fun of them for struggling to come to terms with that. That's fucked up, dog. I do agree that OP does at a minimum need to actually be more stern with his wife, but some of these comments are just gross. In the end, my final thoughts are, of course, ultimatum. You need to get her into therapy with you, so that way both of you can discuss what's currently going on and where your heads are at. If she refuses, then you're just going to be repeating the cycle for the rest of your life. And you gotta ask yourself, is that really what you want? And if it's not, then go for divorce. Good luck, OP. So I actually forgot to make an outro, so here we are. It's currently like well past when the video should be going up, and I just realized like as I'm rendering out all the final clip that it needs to be there. So here's the outro. Gamer subs, use code OZ at checkout. That'd be super cool. Every purchase made supports the channel. You get 10% off with every purchase when you fuck. Code OZ, gamer subs, do it. You get free samples. It's worth it. Outro.